Every story has ooh butchered. Man, that's the second time in a row I've butchered our intro.
You gotta
All right,
leave it for the B-roll, man.
we're gonna start over again. All right,
Blooper reel.
for
Yeah.
real, for sure, absolutely. Every world has a story, and every story has a secret. We're the Warriors of Light, and today we're opening up the save file and diving into the deepest mysteries of the Final Fantasy multiverse. This is Materia Junction, and Dad, man, I don't know how we did it, but we got 3 episodes in a row with 3 guests in a row. We're starting to have a larger party than Final Fantasy VI, which we're talking about today, which is crazy, right? But before we go anywhere, you guys can obviously see on screen we have an amazing guest here with us. Let me not bury the lead. Let me introduce Mama Terra. Mama Terra, tell us a little bit about you, where people can find you on social media, and then I'll love to be able to kind of ask you a little bit about Final Fantasy and your love for it. Because clearly, look at the cosplay. I mean, you look absolutely amazing.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mama Terra. I'm a retro gaming focused cosplayer turned retro gaming streamer. I have, well, let's start at the beginning. About 14 years ago, I decided I was going to become a cosplayer and tackled a project that I desperately want to tackle again. And that was Setzer Gabbiani from Final Fantasy VI. And then the next year, I finally talked myself into making Terra and have rebuilt her 10 times. You can find me
That's
under the
amazing.
name Mama Terra anywhere around the internet. Generally, just Mama Terra on TikTok, Mama Terra cosplay on Instagram, Mama Terra Branford on Twitch. Anywhere you can Google a Mama Terra, you might find me. More than likely, look for the green hair.
That's absolutely amazing, and obviously we're listen on today's episode we're getting very spoiler heavy on what's a 30-year-old game. So Dave Aerith does not die in this one, so that's an inside joke for the Materia Junction podcast. Um,
She
but
almost died in this one.
Yeah.
we we're diving spoiler heavy, so make sure to be ready for that. But before we do, Mama Terra, when I first saw your cosplay, right when we first started the Materia Junction podcast, I saw your cosplay and I was like, well, first of all, I'm a cosplay photographer, and I just can speak from experience. You're an amazing cosplayer, so
Thank you.
absolutely amazing. So but I didn't get the name until I played Final Fantasy VI, and I was like, oh, the name is spot on, right? Is Final Fantasy VI your favorite Final Fantasy game? And if not, what is or what are some honorable mentions for you?
It is my favorite. There are some very deep, dark reasons for that, which I am willing to talk about today. They aren't a secret. Um, but this this one is particularly special to me, and I can make you laugh by telling you that the Mama Terra name was an accident. It was none of this was planned. I look crazier than I am. Anybody who's in the cosplay community understands how people can be. Oh, they cosplay this character, so no one else can cosplay that character. I am that character. We've all run into the crazies before. We
Yeah.
really have. Me, no. I just got tired of being called by my joint cosplay name with my husband in chat, in lives on TikTok. They were calling me Sword because we're actually known as sword and sorcery cosplay. The problem is,
Mm.
I'm not the sword in the scenario. I'm the sorcery.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
He's the one with 30 years of longsword training. That's not me. So I only had Terra active at the time as a cosplay back in 2020, and I got really bored and went to TikTok for the first time. So I was only known as Terra around the internet. So I just changed the name, to match, Mama Terra, instead of just going by Sword.
I listen. I like it. I mean, the name obviously going into the game, the name fits, but I I definitely understand when it comes to the cosplay community and how it can be. And I think people like you are one an inspiration in the cosplay community. But from everything I've seen from your content, you're a safe place for people to be able to come and share their love for cosplay, and that's super important when it comes to the cosplay community for sure. So
If you could see some of the messages that I have been sent, you might tear up.
No.
I love
They
that.
are the pride and joy, not only about cosplay, but about specifically retro games. You
I love that.
accidentally do a lot for people as a cosplayer, especially when you're bringing to life old media. They never tell you that until you actually do it. And some man in his 50s comes running across the con hall at you screaming Terra, Terra, and you stop and turn around and catch a 50-year-old man who's starting to cry as no one ever talks about my game anymore. I lost my mom while I was playing this game.
Oh man,
And
that's crazy.
it's so much, and that happens to me more than you can imagine. Like, you never prepare for that kind of thing, and when it just keeps happening, it kind of becomes part of the gig, you know. You can turn it down, obviously you have a right to consent, or you can do what I did and just hug back.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think I'm not as versed in the cosplay community as Drew is, but I've always been um I guess the word I'm kind of looking for is I've always been like inspired by it, because to me it's another form of self-expression in your most comfortable setting. I grew up as a kid, we emphasized Halloween a lot in our household when we were kids,
Mhm.
and Halloween wasn't just a holiday for us to go trick or treating and to get candy and stuff like that. Halloween was like the one day a year where it was acceptable for you to truly like outwardly show who you were without getting ostracized for it. And I think cosplay is like a huge extension of that, because you are basically portraying a character or dressing up as a character in a community that is 100% accepting of that. And I think there is a lot of beauty in that. And me personally, I don't know enough about it to even enter the realm of cosplay, but I do respect what you guys do wholeheartedly.
Thank you for seeing it that way. A lot of people don't. And here's the thing that I think we don't talk about enough as a community. It's that cosplay is art. Even if you're buying your cosplay, you're still doing your makeup, or you're making a wig. And if you buy your wig and your cosplay, you still have to pose. You still have to know your best angles, still be able to navigate. It's a society in and of itself. All of that boils down to it being its own art form. Now, if you come to me, I do all of my own private designs. I come up with how I want something to look, and then I will go and do it. For instance, my Terra, my cape is 7 feet long, and it's dark
Wow.
purple and lilac and great big jacquard, and her cape doesn't look like that. Interpretation is king when it comes to cosplay. People will try to tell you all the time, oh no, you have to look exactly like that character. That's not physically impossible. Take anime proportions, or even just the one that's on my head right now because we're rebuilding the armor. Cecil Harvey from Final Fantasy IV, when he was
Nice.
rendered in 3D for the remake of 4 and Dissidia, that man's hip to waist ratio, that's not real. That's worse than Barbie, okay? He has less room for organs than she does.
Hmm.
When you start talking about you have to look exactly like the character, you just sound like an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be real.
Yeah. No, that's
I
fair. That's
listen.
fair. That's very
I
fair.
totally agree. My wife is a cosplayer, and she's very talented, especially when it comes like to the makeup and special effects aspect of it. And I honestly I'm blown away by some of the things that she does. But she'll cosplay characters that she doesn't traditionally look like because she loves the characters and
Mhm.
the inspiration that she brings out of people because they're seeing characters that like it's hard, it's nerve-wracking to step out. I don't cosplay because I'm not near as talented enough. The only thing I cosplay is a mediocre podcaster about a couple of times a week. That's about
Same.
the only thing I
Same.
cosplay.
Same. Same.
But with that being said, like it really is, it's inspiring to people because it's their art and the things that they love. And one of the things that I really loved about your cosplay and when Dadman and I met each other, we met each other through a documentary I was making over Magic the Gathering, specifically about the Final Fantasy collab that Magic the Gathering had. And one of the things that I heard numerous times was the joy of people who loved, like Final Fantasy VI, for example, that was getting exposed to new artwork for their favorite characters that they had never seen before. And
Oh my
so
god.
with your cosplays, seeing how that kind of comes to life with such little to go off of what you got from the original artwork in the games, I think it's awesome, to be honest.
I actually do have a favorite card. The art from that shook me up, and it's Bedevil. the one where they break up
Oh
the
yes.
airship, and it is so good. It is screen accurate to who is going after who, where Terra is going off the side of the airship and then Setzer is running for her off the side and Celes goes down in the front of the airship. It's so interesting. And let me tell you the biggest secret about cosplay specifically. It is not about your talent level. It is not about your skill level. It's not about what you look like, what your skin color is, your gender, your voice, your proportions. It's not about any of it. Because if it was, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm 5'9", 5'11" in Terra's heels. I had no. If that were true, I would have no business doing this. But here I am, and here you should be if it's what you want to do, because you have one life, 100 years if you are phenomenally lucky. You only get to do that once, man.
Mm-hmm.
Do what
Mm-hmm.
you want with it. You see all these people out here doing the same thing. You can do that if you just stop being afraid of what society might think of you.
No, I think that's that. I mean, very well said. You almost jumped to the last question we were going to ask you there about what words would you share to people who are on the fence with cosplay, and I think that yeah, like that. Like I try to say on my channel every once in a while that life's too short for people to hate on the things that you love. So go do what you love. Go do what inspires you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kicking over the dad man to go down the. We'll keep going down the list of questions we have for you because we want to be able to get to know you and for our audience to be able to get to know you a little bit. You're our next party member. Like this is awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
love
Let's
this. So
go.
Yes, we have to, treat every party member the same here. So, your favorite game is Final Fantasy VI. We've gone over that.
Mhm.
Was it also your introduction to Final Fantasy, or was that something different?
No, actually, my introduction, and I didn't even play it. It was just on the TV. Was seven. I had no idea what it was. My brother was 8 years old when I was born, so we always had that big separation. And I come in one day, I'm like 6 or 7. No, no, I was like 9, I would say, and he's playing Final Fantasy VII, and I would stand in the kitchen around the corner and I would dance to Cosmo Canyon's music. And
Yeah.
he wouldn't let me play it because I was his annoying little sister. And we're not
oh
allowed to have things. But
Mhm.
I got really mad because my dad worked for the space program in specifically computer engineering. And so we had a computer with access to the internet. And my 10-year-old brain went, you know what? Final Fantasy VII is new, and the internet is clearly brand new. So I'm going to go find Final Fantasy VII online. Well, I didn't, but I found 456 in Chrono Trigger, and the retro gamer was born. Um, can't go wrong with that lineup. I was the I was always behind my friends in gaming, just in general, which is I think I told you prior to this that I decided to marry my husband when he asked me if I knew who Cecil Harvey was. I was like, no, it's on. No one's ever asked me that question.
that's awesome.
But like it's just always been here. It's been a part of me. I actually, before we lost him, I got to look my brother in the eye and tell him this was all his fault.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. I see. I haven't played Chrono Trigger yet. Dad man
Oh,
loves the game. I'm
Oh,
going to work my way
hey,
through it. I haven't played it yet. I
this
definitely
man.
would. I know. Wait, listen. I didn't play a lot of games growing up as a kid. I was
I didn't
poor. That's
either.
why. That's
You're
why I
fine.
overcompensate with all this shit behind me. So as an adult, right? I finally got adult money, so I spend it on useless stuff. So
I
all
gotta.
that being said,
Oof.
that I was going to say, all that being said, I got to hit it big with this content creation if Grayson's going to go to college. So
Oh
Yeah.
man,
we got some
I
work
gotta
to do.
show you my Shala Zeal cosplay. I just finished her. Oh my
Ooh,
god, 2 years worth of work, man. Let me tell you. Oh,
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Okay, well let's go down our list here. So in the world of Final Fantasy, we always want to assign our party members a weapon. What's your favorite weapon in the Final Fantasy universe? Do you have one?
I have two. Obviously the enhancer, Terra's sword, is going to be the one that I
Hmm.
always reach for. When it comes to martial fighting, I do prefer a spear, but a long sword I will always go for. So while Terra's enhancer qualifies as a saber, I do know how to use it. But my actual favorite is a long running one that has
Okay.
shown up in several and got a nod in my favorite MMO. It's Save the Queen. and just the concept and like trope behind naming a sword save the queen, and then it shows up in Guild Wars 2 as it before it's a precursor to a legendary that is for protecting the human queen, but like to see it represented there and having this long-term love of the entire concept of the sword, I got to go with save the queen. I
That's
do have
awesome.
the enhancer hanging up here on the wall and then two more behind me, so
I love that. That's awesome. All right. So then I got a few options to choose from when I put together your party member card or slide for the show for the episode. So I like that. Dad man.
So obviously we can see that Final Fantasy is a huge inspiration to you, but how do you relate that into your art? How do you piggyback that, and what inspires you from Final Fantasy that you can now translate into your art as a cosplayer?
into my art or my entire life.
Well, I guess both is the
Yes, all
same,
of the
right?
above.
Into my art, it would be Amano's designs helped me figure out my own style.
Okay.
I am a big fan of Yoshitaka Amano's work outside of Final Fantasy as well as in. If you were to ask me, his Final Fantasy work is just him paying off parking tickets. In like, unless you see specifically his Terra pieces, which I have the Birth of Terra piece that he did in 2022, 21 or 22, hanging in my living room, and it blows away everything else he's done for that game, except for the box art, maybe. But yeah, that I've carried that forward with me in terms of cosplay, and it Terra specifically is always my I have new skills and I have to rebuild her anyway because I wear her to every con.
Mhm.
I might as well just try out my new skills on Terra. As for my life, I am sitting in front of you today because of Final Fantasy VI. Um, Nobody wants to think about the loss of a child, especially not by their own hand,
Mm.
and especially not a desire to do that starting at age 5. But I had my very own Kefka, and I attached very quickly to Terra for the concepts of a slave crown, a hypno crown, if you want to go by the Japanese, but having that shoved on you by someone who needed you to be something you weren't to appease them. It I saw her and I basically held on. And my
Mhm.
entire life can be told in a series of if Tara could get through this, so could I. If Tara can handle all of that, I can get through all of this. And that remained true through childhood to being a teenager to leaving my first husband to burying my parents.
Mhm.
If she could do that, so
Mhm.
could I. And so I did it.
Dad man, if you'll indulge me for a second, Mama Terra, I gotta say, you embody the way that I feel about not only video games but the Fantasy franchise as a whole, right? Like one of the things that I realized very quickly when I was doing my documentary, because I started out my documentary interviewing Final Fantasy fans, and I interviewed, I don't know, it was probably 75 to 100 Final Fantasy fans for this documentary, and Dadman was one of them. And almost the most reoccurring theme was how relatable people found Final Fantasy to be for their own personal lives, for stories like yours, right? And so when you translate that into sales, for example, I mean, I have a business background, so I always look at like the retail sales of things. It was no wonder for Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering that like this blew all their expectations out of the water, because this isn't just a video game franchise for most of us. This is things that got us through trauma. This is a, characters that made us feel like we were part of a party when we were real, in our real lives when we were all alone, right? These
Mhm.
were stories that were so relatable. To your point, if Tara could get through it, you can get through it, and help um to usher in strength and character into our real world, where we may not have had it without it, right? And I have my own stories, and I've shared those on my platform with Final Fantasy VII. But I got to tell you, some of the things that, and listen, we didn't know anything about the impact of Final Fantasy VI on you prior to this episode, but honestly, thank you for sharing, because it's healthy to talk about these things. It's healthy to mention them, because the reason why is because I assure you that your story inspires someone, and it will let them know that they're not alone in the way that they feel and the things that they're going through. And if someone happens to be watching this who hasn't played Final Fantasy VI, first of all, we're about to spoil the shit out of this game, so I'm just giving you fair warning. But secondly, maybe this will push them to go play that game, knowing that maybe they have similar things that they've gone through, and they're looking for that inspiration to uh to be able to come out on the other side, and to be stronger, which it sounds like you have. So thank you for sharing 100%. So let me toss it back to you, Mama Terra, one last time. In the world of art and your cosplay and things like that, I know you already mentioned about it a little bit, but is there anything that you would love to say to people who are maybe on the fence as cosplayers, who might be scared to cosplay or scared to put their art into the world? What would you say to them to inspire them to do it?
Somebody has to do it. Why not you? Somebody should do it. Why not you? Do it once. Just once. Not on Halloween, but any other time.
Hmm.
Dress up as that favorite character, so that one day when you are 80 years old, crippled in a wheelchair, trying to talk to your grandchildren, you can grab that photo album or whatever hologram form of photo we have in that day and go, look, I did it. I was crazy. You see that? That was me. You can do that too. That is one of the single greatest pieces of encouragement that you can ever give another human being, especially when they're young. Walking around dressing the way I do normally, you see little girls' eyes light up, little boys' eyes light up because they realize they can do that too. And that lets them have a more active, more fulfilled life. And you don't know. You might have a more active, more fulfilled life if you do it. And if you don't, hell, you still get drunk with your buddies and say, "Hey, I put a costume on the other day. You want to
There
see?"
you go.
That's
There you
awesome.
go. I love that. I love that. All right. Well, listen, we're here. One, to obviously introduce our newest party member, but the two, talk about Final Fantasy VI. So this was next game up for Dadman and I. We're all three obviously in love with the Final Fantasy franchise, but there are games that I know that I haven't played. I know Dadman hasn't played. And so we decided, like, we're gonna tackle the challenge of making sure that we play every Final Fantasy game that is under the sun. And we decided to start with six, because shame on us for never
Mhm.
having played this
Yeah.
game, right? And listen, going into it, I knew all the spoilers. Like, I knew everything that was going to happen, right? But it didn't take away my enjoyment of this
Hmm.
game. This game was so incredibly well done. Um, and in a world where I'm more of a modern Final Fantasy fan than I am a retro Final Fantasy fan, the fact that this game I still haven't decided yet, but it's right there in my top three, trying to crack into that top three for me. I think speaks a lot to how amazing this retro game was in a world full of modern gamers. If you haven't played this game, I definitely think you're doing yourself a disservice. So when you guys think of Final Fantasy VI, Dad, man, I'll kick it over to you first. What's the
Hmm.
first scene or character or musical theme that flashes in your head when you first think of Final Fantasy VI? You can only choose one, and
Oh
if you
man,
steal mine, I'm going to be
that's.
mad at you.
I mean, I know. I know ours is probably the same, so I won't
Probably.
steal yours. But it's so. Man, it's just there's so many. There's so many. There's so many moments in this game that are just
Yep.
like iconic, right? Like even from like the opening. But what I will say is the moment that I the moment in the game that I felt the probably the most, or like I like, I guess not related to, because it's not something that I've done per se, but I really felt it in that moment was in the world of Ruin when Celes is with Sid and he passes away and she jumps off the cliff. Um, that scene for me, I was just like I felt that in my bones, and I was just like, man, like to just have that feeling of just absolute despair, where like there's nothing left for you, just to try to give it all up in that one single moment. And I think that's what pushed me over the edge, metaphorically speaking, where I could say Celeste is my favorite character in the entire game.
And then you wake up at the bottom of the cliff and find out you couldn't even kill yourself, so now you go
Yep.
save the world.
Yep. Yeah. It's
I,
so
I
like
love
it's
that.
so like it's so badass. Just like, oh well, maybe I'm just gonna go do this now. And yeah, it's exactly what happens.
I
Yeah.
have a
That
lot
moment
to say about that scene.
that moment for me was like wow, they're actually doing this in a video game, and it was crazy to see it. 'Cause of course I've heard about it. It's hard not to hear about something that's 30 years old, but seeing it and like playing through it and like where you're at in the story and just like the after what just happened with like the blackjack blowing up and everything, and it was just like where we're at, I was just like, okay, this is pretty heavy. And yeah, that for me, like that's the scene that resonates most in my brain when I think about Final Fantasy VI.
What's funny is I knew that scene was coming too. Like I knew about it from just hearing about the story. I didn't know she survived. I just from
Really?
everything I knew about the story, I thought that was the end of her story there, and I was sitting there like, how does this happen? Because in my head, I'm thinking like, oh man, like I really hope that Locke doesn't come across this island and then find her. Like that would be devastating. So when she wakes up and then the bird, the seagull, has Locke's bandana, and she gets that spark of hope and inspiration. I was like, okay, that was a twist I didn't expect to
Yeah.
happen. So Mama Terra, what about you? When you think of Final Fantasy VI, what's the first scene or character or musical theme that kind of flashes in your head?
Well, I can't go with musical theme because my ringtone is Terra's theme.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But the scene is Terra's transformation.
Yeah,
Like
Oh,
that
like okay,
first
yeah,
time in
yeah.
the mountains.
Hmm. Yeah.
which is so good.
That's a
And
good
and
that's a good
I
one
love the
too.
way I played the game on the Pixel remastered.
Hmm.
And I loved I loved how she looked in the transformation, because it was both haunting but also, I guess, kind of, for lack of a better word, I guess glorious, if you will, right? It was
Oh
a
yeah.
mixture of like should I be scared of what she can now do, now that she's kind of harnessing her powers and who she is, or like should I just be in awe that and thankful that she's on our side, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's definitely a good one. My mine, and I said this throughout the course of playing the game, made some videos about it. It's the opera scene,
Yeah, the
like
opera scene is
the
so
Yeah.
opera
good.
scene. Listen, and you don't get like the scene, because I agree with you. I think the Celeste scene on the island, I think is fantastic, but I don't think it has as much weight without the opera scene.
Yeah.
And what ties that whole scene to the rest of the game for me is, her putting her heart out there. You can feel the love between her and Locke and how it's building. Um, she obviously she tries to jump off the cliff. She survives. She's like, I'm gonna go find Locke, just to find him doing nothing but trying to save his old girlfriend. I felt so bad for Celeste. Like I was like, he's like, oh man, but I get it. I get what she was like in it, and I love her heart in it. But like, okay, I'm gonna help you.
Can I
Like,
break your
like,
heart about it?
Yeah, go
yes,
for it.
go ahead.
They are canonically not a couple.
Listen,
They've
in my head
It's
in
a
canon,
your
will
head
they,
canon,
won't
yeah.
they?
yeah,
It is meant to be a will they won't they
Yes,
because the
100%.
game is an opera. And
yeah.
in all subsequent material, they are they're not even romantic. I'm like, Square, you cowards.
Yeah, yeah.
That is not my ship. I do not like that ship because it's weird. It's only on Celes's behalf that I'm like, get this man away from her. She deserves better.
Mm.
But I'm over here
Listen, I
like
agree with you on
my
that.
my background is literally Locke and Terra because that's my ship with my husband.
Yeah,
But for some reason it's fine there, so I'm aware of the hypocrisy. Um, but yeah, it makes me so angry because even though I'm not down bad for that ship, I want them to do it. I want
Yeah.
them to take that final leap. And the problem is, if they ever remake it, which they've already said they're basically not going to, well, they're not going to Final Fantasy VII style remake it. And thank
Yeah,
God,
and
let
they
me be
probably
real.
shouldn't. Yeah, they shouldn't.
Um, they said it will take them 20 years, and I believe them. But
Mm-hmm.
like, if they do that, if they go beyond the will they, won't they, and they make it a canon romance, it will ruin the concept of their story. Because the point of Locke's story is not that he left her for Rachel or anything like that. It's that he needs to learn how to forgive himself
Right.
enough to where he can grieve her, not be freed to go be in love with Celes. Locke's story is about him being given freedom to grieve. He can't even consider being in love with Celes until we know he is, but he can't consider being with her until he has grieved Rachel. And we don't know what that's going to look like. And I feel
Yeah.
like breaking that dynamic does them both a disservice, because I'm really glad Celeste can love now, but she has to learn how to be a person post being a general.
Right.
So that I thought was just, don't change it. Don't change it. But in our hearts, we know the truth. We know the
Yeah.
Yeah.
truth.
Well,
One day in
and
10
listen,
years.
I think
Yeah,
that's the
maybe.
part that that is awesome about it is again like he was her inspiration, right, to get off that island and be like, all right, I'm like, we're going to do this, we're going to do something about all of this. And I mean, to me, Mama Terra, you kind of hit it on the head. It's meant to be an opera. It's meant to be, like, will they, won't they? And for me, like, it's a will they. Like, I think that they, like, to me, in my head canon, like, that's where they went. But you
Well,
do
yeah,
make a great
absolutely.
point of like, you do make a great point of like, man, that's the this whole game is littered with heartbreak and tragedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that being one of them, for her to find him, just to find him not searching for Celeste, but searching to be able to still save Rachel. That's, like, and when I saw that, I was like, punch him in the face. Just like, I mean,
Just
just
punch him in the face.
right. Just
Listen,
one good
listen,
hit.
Celeste. Tara is right there. She's right there, baby. But ring the wedding bells. She's good to go. Like, go marry her. Like, that's my
Yeah.
joke
Yeah,
about that. Like, go girl, go. That's one of my favorite ships.
100.
I'm a multi shipper. So basically, Final Fantasy VI is the story of Celeste, her wife Tara, their many husbands, pets, children, and grandfather.
Nice.
Like, that's how you shut down a shipping war. It's so easy. Just everybody sleep. If you're gonna go fight God tomorrow morning, you're gonna sleep with your friends the night before. I mean, certain death, man. Might as well.
Agree, totally agree. All right, so listen, let's jump into our main campaign today. We have three topics that we want to talk about for Final Fantasy VI, and listen, how we narrowed it down to three, I don't know, but here are our three topics. The first one is going to be about the ensemble cast and shifting perspectives a little bit, right? So we want to break down how the game really truly abandoned that single chosen hero trope and really opened the world to us. Like, when you talk about party members, like, and whether you liked it or you didn't like it, because I won't lie, I felt like there was too many party members for us, but I understood that's what the game was going for. I understood the mechanics of the game and how it played out, especially when you were in the ruins and everything at the end. um the fact is that you can look at this game, and depending on what perspective you're looking through, what lens you're looking through with your heroes, really kind of determines who you think is the hero of this game. And
Mhm.
I think that that's a very interesting and unique approach to this game in 1990. What was it, 1997 when this game came out?
94.
94,
Yeah.
94
So
came out. When
here's I think
Go
a
ahead.
way that they accomplished that quickly and effectively was whoever is the character that's in your party the most is going to be the one, or that you walk around as the most is going to be the one that is standing against Kefka at the end. And whoever your second most common party member is going to be like, you fly up on the tiers of rock to call Kefka into account, and then the second most is going to be over here. So it is literally, without complicating the programming or overwhelming the capabilities of those microchips to where the point where they already were overwhelmed, was they let you decide who was going to be, excuse me, doing that face off very effectively. It made it so easy to feel like you were actually in control of the game. You're talking about Seven. Everybody knows Cloud is the hero of Seven. He's right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't leave
Yeah.
until he gets holed up in Mideel. You can't go with somebody else. It's always Cloud. Where in the terms of Final Fantasy VI, you know you have two main viewpoint characters, Terra and Celes, but can you actually call them the main character? And unfortunately, in one of those cases, we can. And that's because they had to stick to a single character for the advertising, and that's Terra.
Mm-hmm.
In Square, she is the unspoken favorite in terms of like characters to represent with. It's always Terra for some reason, which honestly cool, but weird. If you have
Mm-hmm.
this massive cast of characters, you should do a ton of banners featuring that massive cast of characters.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think you're wrong, and I would also say, I think with most modern Final Fantasy gamers, like people who were introduced around the time that 10 came out and only know a world where voice acting is a thing and all that kind of stuff, I think that a lot of them look at Final Fantasy and they crown Lightning as your first female hero of the Final Fantasy universe, and I like Lightning, I do, but this game did such a great job. But to your point, I mean, really juggling two female leads in this game with Terra and Celeste, and I'm sorry, this isn't a knock on 13, but doing it better than 13 did when they were singly focused on the Lightning character, right? Like that's just my opinion. Don't come at me. I
No,
love
you're fine.
Lightning, but
I love
um,
lightning. You're
I,
good.
I'm talking about the people that listen. Some of our comments, some of these people that comment on our videos, they come with some strong opinions about Final Fantasy,
Oh, there
which
the
I'm
entire
here for.
fandom's like that.
Uh,
Just
so you know,
don't give them more credence than a yapping dog is how I think about it. Let them have
no,
their opinion and you can have yours, and if they don't want you to have your opinion,
no kidding.
that's their problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So when we're looking at though at Terra and Celeste, I am personally I'm in. I mean, I love them both. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love them both, and I love the artwork. I didn't even talk about. We haven't talked about this. You hit it a little bit, Mama Terra, but the artwork in this game, like is easily, in my opinion, the best artwork that we've ever gotten from any Final Fantasy game on release. Like I mean, hell, and part of our closing outro for these videos is that shot of Terra on the machine, looking over the city and stuff like that's just an amazing shot. So, Dad, man, let me kick it over to you for a second. I'm Team
Mm-hmm.
Celeste, even though I love them both. But between Terra's
Yeah.
search for emotion and Celeste's search for loyalty and grief, how do you think this game managed to successfully juggle its cast of characters, its playable parties, and do you feel like this is one person's story over the other?
Um, I think I look at the game in two different halves. I look at the game as the first half being the world of balance, and then the second half being the world of ruin. And I think for those who are completionists, I think there's a lot of extra content, like side content that you could do that fleshes out some of the other characters, like Gao meeting his father, and Cyan putting his family finally to rest. I think those are like important like side story beats, which it drives me crazy when games don't include that in some of the main story. I mean, I understand if you did that all the time, it'd be a 100-hour campaign pretty easily. But like in the first half of the game, in the world of balance, I as I was playing the game, I thought Locke was the main character because I felt like I had to use Locke more than anybody. And then you get you get very little of Terra in the beginning. Like you have her in the beginning with the Magitech armor, and then the whole like meeting Locke, and then she goes away to Dozo before she transforms, and then she's in her little coma. So like I didn't get Terra until like the world of Ruin, basically. And in the world of Ruin is when I started liking her more as a character. Her story. What hit me with Terra was when she was in the village, being the Mama Terra to all the children. Like to me, that pulled at my heartstrings because here was a person who was robbed of their childhood and is now kind of mending that fence a little bit and like being able to experience it as an older person, but she's kind of like vicariously living through those kids again, and like that's giving her purpose, which I thought was a beautiful touch. But
Can
as
I
far as
make it
like,
better for you?
okay, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. Um, the scene in Moblis always struck me as exceptionally powerful because when you walk in and you see all those burned out buildings, we're too busy thinking about, oh, look, more Kefka's destruction. We're not thinking about where the food is coming from, where the water is coming from,
Right.
who's keeping this place safe. You walk these countless miles out onto this teeny tiny little peninsula, and you never stop to think those kids can't make that walk back. And you both have children. So what I'm going to say might put Tara's situation in a bit more sharper perspective for you. So, and I'm going to tie in something else here that's very important. The scariest line to me in the entire game is actually said by Lola on Cyan's quest in the world of Ruin when they meet her and she's getting all these flowers and she says, the flowers won't grow anymore. So he makes me silk ones. And we always
Mm,
forget what is the breeding part of the plant. It's the flower. The flower turns into the fruit. The fruit is the crop. So you have an entire world that has had its food supply, its entire food supply, because you're dealing with a cataclysmic event. You
mm-hmm.
have an asteroid strike, you have a volcanic trap that opens up in the middle of it. That world, people are dying of starvation left and right. So you have two kids who grew up on the frontier, one of whom is probably a midwife. Her training is all midwifery, and his training is probably trapping. He's probably not a full hunter yet. He's only 15.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Tara who comes in. She is probably the only person in this situation who can hunt. Now,
Right.
here's the part that will pluck at your heartstrings. She is going to get tired, and it's going to get harder and harder to go outside because there's Fun Baba running around, and you have to. There's wild dogs in the square who we realize are actually kind of friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But what is there is a sound a child can make that will pull on any human being's heartstrings, and that is the wailing when they are hungry. I cannot look at that scene and not just see the image of any mother scraping her food onto their child's plate. So
Mm-hmm.
when they find Tara and she says, I just can't do it anymore, what physical state is she in? She can't transform. Why? She's starving to death to keep those children alive.
Yep.
I listen.
Changes it.
I love that. Yeah, because I kind of picked up like when I'm in the moment playing the game, I didn't put that together, right? Like I thought she was just tired because of the way the world was and she was mentally exhausted or whatever, right? And the more I started thinking about it and kind of really visiting the game, preparing for this, the sacrifices Tara makes in this game, I think again, this is why like if Square does decide to remake a game, it needs to be this one. like
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
like this is one that they need, because this is where, because I listen, the problem I have, dad men will tell you, I suck at reading. I am such a terrible reader. It's not even funny. And so this is where voice acting and things like that would have made this game just absolutely, like it would have hit so much harder for me, because it's just the way that I play, right? Like I even mentioned this earlier, like I'm a more of a modern Final Fantasy gamer than I am a retro
Mm-hmm.
gamer, which is why I can appreciate when you go live and you're going through your playthroughs, you read all the dialogue and you do it in like your own version of voice acting of what you would
Yeah.
portray these characters as, was I think is freaking awesome, if I'm being
I
honest.
Yeah.
So
wish you could have seen my chat when they found out I was going to dramatize it. They didn't know until exactly that moment that I was going to dramatize the game. I thought everybody who streamed a game with this much reading dramatized it. Apparently,
Nope.
I'm wrong. And I'm just sitting here looking at them going, is this. Do you not dramatize the books you're reading to your kids? When it's bedtime stories, are you not, ooh, big dragon man, if you're reading
Mm-hmm.
your kids The Hobbit or The Lord of the
Mm-hmm.
Rings and aren't jumping on your bed yelling Smog's lines at 11 o'clock at night, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting here going, this is completely changing the game for me. Oh my god, what are you doing? And you're doing it with a straight face. You're not giving them silly voices except where it might
Yeah.
apply. And I'm like, what the hell else am I supposed to do? So I can see immediately what you mean when you say that it would benefit from voice acting.
Mhm.
And it is definitely a story that would, especially right now, if you guys don't know, some of these characters show up in other games that do have voice acting,
Yeah.
namely, and everybody's gonna laugh, namely the Dissidia games, including Duellum, which is the first time we have Celes in a Dissidia game, and the other one is
Mhm.
World of Final Fantasy, which they're little chibi
Mhm.
bobbleheads basically. So none of
Yeah.
that is going to be read well, but you get an actual look about how Square would characterize these characters. Forgive the word usage there, but and it's not what people are ready for. And when you come to somebody like me who values literature, tropes, reading in general, and I just pick up like story pieces and chew on them and make them mine basically. I'm a fanfic writer. What do you want? But you look at it and you're trying to tell people for years, this is what's happening in this scene. It's not, for instance, I'm a general, not an opera floozy. A lot of people are going to read that differently if they're not paying attention to what her sprite is doing. She stamps her foot and runs away. It's not a very strong, I'm a general, not some opera floozy. It's, I'm a general, not some opera floozy. And she's having a
Right.
tantrum. She is 18 years old. Your girl is having a full-blown teenage tantrum, and I'm here for it. And when you see that characterized in these other games that most people aren't playing, it completely changes how you view the character. For instance, Dissidia Duellum, Celeste was just released. Nobody was ready for her to be a girly girl. She's a girly girl. And she is a little bit more reserved, but a lot of her emotions about things have never been given voice before, one of those being Sid, and it's not what I was prepared for at all. Oh man. But when you have VA, these things become apparent. Not everybody can read a scene. Not everybody can pay attention to the dialogue box and what the sprites are doing. And it knocks you for a loop. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I agree. I love that. Yeah, man. Let me ask you this, and we'll kick it over to Mama Terra. Is there a character outside of, because I do kind of agree with you, Dad, man. Like I thought Locke was the main character of this game when I first started, and then I kind of realized that he's the main character of the game the same way like Titus is the main character of 10, right? Like this was
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
Yuna's the main character of that game.
Hmm.
Terra and Celeste were the main characters. We just happened to start out by seeing it through Locke's eyes for the majority of for the start of the game.
He's the
Um,
conveyance.
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there a character outside of those three, Dead Man, that you were particularly drawn to, or that you maybe ended up being the one of your main party members throughout the course of the game?
Um, I have two answers. The easiest one, because I felt like I had the most time with him, was Sabine or Sabin or Sabin, however you pronounce it. I pronounce it
Yeah.
Sabine. I really liked
I think
his.
Sabin is the Italian, and the Figaro brothers are both meant to be Italian. So it's one of those where within its own language, it has a ton of different pronunciations. So I think all three are correct, but he is actually Mash.
Okay,
His name is Mash.
Mash. Okay. So I liked him. I liked his like. I like the dynamic between him and his brother. I like that his brother kind of sacrificed, his freedom to continue to, be the king of the, of Figaro or whatnot, and like let him go out and venture and do his thing. Honestly, though, like the character that I really ended up liking Shadow a lot. Like
Oh
I really,
yes.
even though he's like in and out of the party. There was something so intriguing about his character and his game mechanics and how he plays. And then unfortunately, I didn't wait for him on the
Oh
floating
no!
continent. So yeah, exactly. So when I found out that
You
you were supposed to wait for him, I was like, "Where the hell is Shadow?" And then I was so pissed about that. But
uh-huh.
on my second playthrough, I'll save him for sure.
That's great. Mama Terra, what about you? For outside of the top three, what character were you drawn to the most in this game?
Not Shadow. I'm sorry. Setzer.
Okay.
I love Setzer, and I can tell you why. Really, it's really easy to understand, and it is not safe for work in general, but not on my half, not on my behalf. So one, he was just hot. I thought he was the sexy scarred guy when I was a kid, and I was like, he wears a big coat. My big brother wears a trench coat. I like him. And he throws cards. Like, what's there not to love? Everybody was watching X-Men at this time. He's Gambit. Come on. Um,
Yeah.
but then I realized when I stopped being an innocent child, they capture him by way of a kink. What we don't notice, what we miss a lot about Setzer is, and the key here is the use of the word floozy, because we don't realize when we think of floozy, we think, oh yeah, some barmaid. It means slut. Let's be real here.
Oh.
He's actually with Maria. They are banging, very clearly, and you can tell because he doesn't break the opera house roof, which means she left a window open for him. And here's the thing, and this is headcanon, I'm gonna tell you, but it's the one that makes the most sense to me. If you wanted to make a whole lot of money and you were on the stage, what is a great way to make a whole lot of money? You get kidnapped off stage by your boyfriend and you go lay on a beach for 2 weeks with said sexy boyfriend, right? And then the whole time the world is panicking. Where's Maria? She's gone? Is she dead? We haven't seen Setzer. The airship is missing. It hasn't been seen anywhere. Telegraphs are coming in. Radio announcers, blah, 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 blah. And then you turn up 2 weeks later, slightly suntanned, but nobody's noticing. And they're like, Maria, what happened? He let me go. He loves me so much. He couldn't bear to take me from the stage. And so people are coming to the opera, going, oh my God, what if it's not her? We have to make sure it's the real Maria. Sold out houses, right? And then on Setzer's side, people are buying into his game. So, did she really get away? What was she like in bed? How did you do it? Because there's this girl I really like on the opera stage. And once I put together that that's what was going on, I was like, no, he's mine. I'm so in. This is great. He's the Phantom of the Opera. And I'm not a fan of that show, but man, I'll take it when it comes up.
That's great. So this is the reason why we wanted to have you on, because like your takes on the game and just how well you know the lore. Like this is some deep cuts, deep dive into six. So I love this.
You're gonna hate me in a bit.
Mine's pretty simplistic. It came solely from just a standpoint of the mechanics of the game, but it was I know you guys were talking about how to pronounce it. I was pronouncing it Sabin in my head, just because he was the brawler. Like he saved my ass in so many fights in this game when I was going through it. I was like,
awesome.
all right,
the
like
Figure Bros came to the rescue.
and all I want to be able to do, all I want to be able to see is just an MMA fighting style match between him and Zell from Final Fantasy VIII. That's all I want to see. I want to see those two go at it. I think that would be great.
Honestly, and I realized the other night, what I would really love to see is just in any Dissidia, anywhere, all of a sudden, Sabin, Tifa, and Zell just post up against some boss, and there's just this moment of oh shit on the boss's face. Just what did I do? Awesome.
All the brawlers.
You gotta get Tifa in there.
Don't get me started on Tifa. Don't get me started on Tifa. I love me some Tifa. So, all right. So, Dad, man, I know you got some thoughts about Kefka. We don't have to go. We don't have to go into why he's not as good as Sephiroth. It's all right.
We're not talking about that on this episode.
Listen. I am not the girl to have that fight with. Actually, I made a video about this earlier.
let's
Yeah.
I so well, okay, let's just dive it. Dad, man, take us into the madness of Kefka here, and then I want to be able to just hear your guys' thoughts. So
So we there's this ongoing friction between myself and Drew about who is the best villain of all time. And so after I played six, I always considered Kefka one of the better villains. I didn't really know too much because I hadn't played the game, obviously, but from story beats and everything, and his ascension into godhood, and his nihilistic manners, and all that, and it gave me like Joker vibes from DC Comics. I'm a big Batman fan, so it gives me a lot of Joker vibes. But that's just like the first layer of the onion. Actually seeing Kefka in practice and how unhinged and psychotic he was, like he literally murders General Leo and just like kicks his dead body around on screen.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they really like fully went there. And then his betrayal of Gestal and all that stuff, like he was just masterminding everything the whole time. And a lot of the times, like the problem with the Joker is he always gets thwarted by Batman, right? He's just this comical clown and he always gets thwarted. But Kefka didn't fall into that trope. Like he had his plan, he saw that, he went after it, he completed it, and he became, in my opinion, the greatest Final Fantasy villain of well, maybe the second greatest Final Fantasy villain of all time, just because of how uncontrollably chaotic he is. So I gotta hear from you your thoughts on Kefka Palazzo.
Me?
Yeah, I
yeah,
gotta
take it over,
hear.
Mama Terra.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. So a lot of people call him a Nietzsche villain. He's not. Um, Nietzsche, for one, didn't apply to the common man. Everybody loves to hinge on Nietzsche, but he was talking to rich people, okay, about crushing the poor people, under the thumb, as it were. He more or less, I would say, fit someone. I would say Plato, someone who is out there to just destroy civilization and culture
Hmm.
and government. But because Nietzsche's the hot word, we always talk
Yeah,
about Nietzsche. He is a nihilist. That one is for sure. What I love about him is that he's not a sob story villain. And the only little bit of emotion and empathy that they do give him is there is one guy in Vector way off to the side where if you talk to him, he will say they broke him by doing experiments on him and it made him what he is. And
yeah,
I'm going to start throwing a name out there that a lot of people may not know, and if they do, they're going to get uncomfortable, and that's Mengele from the Nazi regime. He was the scientist who experimented on people in the
hmm,
camps, and it was some truly horrifying stuff. The same kind of thing was happening at Unit 731, which is a whole different thing I want to talk about. But so you have Sid, who I personally view as the villain of this game, is Dr. Sid, who broke Kefka on doing this, and then he just turns around and willy-nilly sticks needles full of this little baby,
yep,
Celes, and is like, "You're my granddaughter." Don't get me started. Justice for Celes, honestly. But um, so you have that immediately establishes who you're going to be going in and seeing, which is Dr. Sid, Yosef Mengele, also seen in Hojo. An interesting thing to understand about Final Fantasy VI is Square has a very bad tendency to recycle storylines when they go onto new hardware. Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy VII are the same story with a different hat on and
Mm-hmm.
slightly different terminuses. So you can actually take, and this is why I don't like the Kefka versus Sephiroth on who's better, because you can take them, put them side by side, and they will be looking into a mirror. Just Sephiroth didn't get his destruction that he wanted, Kefka did.
Right.
They are both mad. They're both insane. They ruined Sephiroth by giving him an emotional backstory that made you feel bad for him. He was fine when it was just, oh yeah, they pumped him full of Genova cells. I love a non-sympathetic villain. I do love my sympathetic villains, but I love my non-sympathetic ones more because I grew up on Disney movies and Darth Vader. What do you want from me?
Yep.
But I mean, it's Final Fantasy. If you're not talking about Darth Vader, you're doing it wrong. And so when you had this villain that comes through, and this is a man who commits 3 genocides. Okay, one of them is an extinction over the course of this game. He poisons Doma, which I have a friend, shout out to Foxboy, who came up with a t-shirt that says Kefka Cola taste tested in Doma. One of my favorite terrible jokes ever. The other one, the one my husband came up with, is Cecil Harvey Daycare founded in mist. You'll understand when you get there.
Yeah, no spoilers for 4. No spoilers for 4.
Retroactive cringe on your behalf coming. But so you have this character who had no problems killing Doma. And what they don't actually tell you in the English is that he is not actually a general. When you read the Japanese, his driving reason for killing Doma was he wants to be, and they use the word shogun. He wants to be shogun like Celes and Leo and is being denied by the emperor, which is a big part of why he actually kills the emperor. Is Daddy Emperor never made him shogun, which is what he felt he was owed. And you have this almighty temper tantrum, which when you get down to it, the biggest difference between Kefka and Sephiroth is that Kefka had a temper tantrum and Sephiroth didn't. Sephiroth just went right under Mommy Genova's little thumb, was a good little child and did whatever she told him to do. Kefka said, nah, screw this. I've had it with everyone. I am destroying everything on this planet and then probably myself. And then he does it. And we're going back to the food thing. He causes an extinction event. A lot of that planet just isn't coming back. I mean, again, major spoilers. We've gone over this before, but he even kills magic with his own death. He can't let anyone have anything because he was denied the role of shogun. Now, there's probably some more in there. You have to recognize that somewhere in this madman is a 16-year-old kid who was tortured for no reason. I have a headcanon that he's the emperor's illegitimate son, and that's why they did this to him. But a lot of people like to believe that, he was at an orphanage with Celes. He's 35 during this game. That didn't happen. Unless Celes was an infant. But, when you're looking at an industrial revolution, a 1920s specific industrial revolution world, no 16-year-old is at an orphanage. He's already working. And so they give you this character who's still probably somewhere in there got that little boy who's going, I didn't do anything wrong. Why is this happening to me? Why didn't they just give me what I wanted, which was my title? I wanted to be shogun. And so he's having this temper tantrum. And that temper tantrum just happens to hit the planet with an asteroid. Which, I guess. That's horrifying. But then with that temper tantrum, he also goes, you can't have magic anymore. And he takes that with him, which I honestly thought the Archangel motif with him and the Harlequin motif were some of the best moves they could have made with his character design. And also,
I see that.
For his rendering for Dissidia, a lot of people didn't know this until some crazed fangirl went, I wonder what he looks like without his makeup on. And then took just a basic... I don't know how they chose the specific skin tone, but they covered up his makeup and he looks like David Bowie. Exactly like David Bowie. So they understood the assignment. Amano has very specific tastes when it comes to character design, which is why when you see both of Kefka's designs, he's absolutely crazy looking. And a lot of it was inspired, obviously, Amano was a big fan of 80s music, and that was a part of it, and he loved movies. He works on Vampire Hunter D, so he was very, very deep in the movie scene. So, Cesar Romero's Joker, that kind of thing. He grew up with that. I know everybody points at Mark Hamill should voice him, please.
Yes!
No, I hate that. It's so cheap. I like how Dave Wittenberg does it. If you haven't heard Dave Wittenberg voice him, you're missing out. Because Dave actually told me when I met him that they spent an hour in the studio matching his laugh to the laugh in the game, the
Oh
actual
wow.
digitized laugh. Yeah, I'm like, Dave can have it. No, no, that's goals. That's VA goals. If he did it, if he went that hard, I'm in. I'm in. So and Mark Hamill for me is just a cop out. I'm not gonna down on anybody who wants that. Like I can see why,
Yeah.
but he's not the Joker that I see when I see Kefka. I see Caesar Romero. I see Jack Nicholson. I see more than if you were to go, oh, look, it's the Batman cartoon. Eh? There's more than just
Mm-hmm.
a cartoon. So, but that's just me, you know. He would
See,
be a
That's
damn
fair.
good Joker. Or he would.
I
Mark Hamill would be a damn good Kefka. I'm not gonna lie.
I personally like I think that Mark Hamill he's Mark Hamill, right? Like he's a phenomenal
Yeah,
voice actor.
he's
But
got
there's
to be in Final Fantasy. It's based on Star Wars.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? At some point you got to get there, right? But there's I'm pulling up the actor's name. He played Roach and Roche, excuse me, in Final Fantasy VII remake. It looks like it's Austin Lee Matthews is his name. If you go back and watch Roche in Final Fantasy VII remake, if you're looking for a voice actor, like if they were going to do this, and you're looking for a voice actor that is already within universe, and in your already in your offices doing work, I think he would be a great voice. So go back and rewatch the scenes with Roche in there. I think he would be a really good Kefka. But listen, I gotta tell you, I
You're
totally
right.
agree
I'm
with
just
your
gonna tell
point.
you, you're right. He'd be incredible.
I I gotta tell you though, your point though about Sid being the villain of this game is
Here
spot
we
on.
go.
Now, me and Dad Man hadn't talked about this yet, because we've been trying to save our main conversations for this, right? But
Ooh,
does that take anything away from Kefka? No, Kefka diabolical, just fucking nuts, and some people. I mean, to quote Joker, some people just want to see the world burn, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and so, but for me, it's the same argument for when people talk about Sephiroth and Hugo or Hojo, excuse me. Hojo is when you're looking
he is the villain
at
of
the
Final
lens,
Fantasy
he's the villain of
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, exactly
Yes.
right. Um, but Sid, I had zero sympathy for Sid when he died on that
same.
island because I
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
why are we mourning this guy? What in the world? I was sitting there, it's like,
Thank you.
Celeste, what are you
I hate
doing?
this
No,
conversation.
it,
I hate
it,
this conversation.
the,
Everybody's always like, but he's granddad. No, he's not. He
no,
did this
no,
to them.
yeah,
He's totally manipulating Celeste.
yep,
He literally tells her, I always looked on you as a granddaughter. Oh, you looked on her as a granddaughter while you were shoving her full of needles, you psycho? Using
yep,
DNA
exactly,
probably pulled from Terra as a serum to make sure the magic works in Useless.
yep.
I get a little uppity about this one. I'm sorry. This is why I'm like justice for Celeste so bad. I tell my chat all the time Celeste and I are dating. Just go with it. But like she oh yeah, granddad. Granddad when you were
Yeah,
demanding perfect test scores, granddad when you were
uh huh.
allowing them to put her through military school at age 10, granddad at the end of the world when you were telling her there's nothing out there anymore, where the world is dead, and then secretly building a raft in your basement. I ramrod slow fish into that man's face every single time.
I I
The
agree.
only reason, and this is new. This is new. Someone actually gave me a something that I thought was a good reason for keeping him alive: incarceration. Incarceration to be
Okay.
held accountable. I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize. I didn't know realize you knew you played ball." Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But the game doesn't give us that narrative, right? It's clear that Celeste loves
Mhm.
him and cares for him, which I understand that from her perspective. If all she's ever known was that and she's been
Yes.
manipulated to believe like
Oh
that's just
yeah.
norm, I get that, right? But
She
as the player, I was like, I don't care. Die, Sid. Like,
Oh
go
God,
throw his
yes.
ass to the
I
seagulls,
hate
you
that
know?
man. So there's a couple of additional reasons here, and you hit the nail on the head. He is a grade A manipulator. He is
Yeah.
so good at that, and he's been doing it for so long. She does not know, and probably won't know for years, that he was the driving force, that he couldn't have loved her. When you are
Yeah.
doing that to multiple children and another human, one who can look at you and scream, "Stop doing this to me," you have to dehumanize them. And one of the things that I've been holding off talking about, we talked about the Holocaust, and unfortunately, Final Fantasy VI, everybody always goes, "Oh, but Final Fantasy and the Holocaust." This one was specifically referencing that. And at the time that Final Fantasy was founded, Unit 731, which was in Imperial Japan's Holocaust on the Chinese coastline, was being declassified. They were finding out for the first time that their government had sanctioned something like that. And part of that was the torture of children. And that came out uniquely for Final Fantasy VI because Hironobu Sakaguchi, the father of Final Fantasy, found out he was a father. So, of course, it came out. And one of the things that I think that people don't understand about me is when you have the understanding that I did as a child of history and the Discovery Channel, because I'm from a science household and my dad was in Vietnam. We were watching war documentaries all the time. Like, I had an old dad. What do you want? But
Yeah.
I knew what was going on because I had seen it on the television. I had a
Yeah.
lifelong love of learning. I still do. I married an aerospace engineer and I'm his biggest fangirl. Like, come home and tell me all of the space stuff, please. Um, but all of that, I was able to look at that and be horrified because, again, I had my own personal Kefka. She was my mother. And especially when it comes to the slave crown, Kefka could not have done that on his own. He needed help. And to this day, I fully, completely believe that it was imperfect and they were still using drugs to keep her complacent while they could fine tune it to work on soldiers. And the reason it never comes up
Mm.
again is they lost the prototype. There was only one. And part of why she has amnesia is that drug, which is why she doesn't remember that she's half Esper. I'm sorry, but birth is one of the most painful things you can ever experience for child and mother. And
Yeah.
she probably came into this planet furry and screaming right into daddy's hands. So it's kind of foolish to believe that at 18 years old was her first transformation. So it has to be amnesia induced by the drug in my head. And I'm sitting there going, Sid created all of this. So you have tie-ins from World War II with the drug testing, the creation of LSD, all of that. I think the Holocaust was LSD specifically. Again, back to Mengele. Hello. But then you have the experimentation on children, child soldiers. That's Japanese imperialism. So much warlike history was wrapped into Final Fantasy VI alone that it is their second biggest political statement. And before anybody in the comments goes, Final Fantasy isn't political, the devs have said so multiple times, and it's time to listen to the
Oh,
devs.
yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
were trying to teach us to be heroes and right from wrong when we were children. If you didn't listen, that's on you, man.
we talk about this all the time on the podcast about how that when the Final Fantasy stories are at its peak is when it's holding a mirror up to the world.
Oh God, play
And
tactics,
reflecting, yeah.
please, I beg.
And so,
Yeah.
Oh,
Dad, man, though, I want to kick it over to you. I want to ask you, as part of this, right? Like, let's imagine Square Enix comes around and says, "Okay, you know what? We're going to give the remake treatment. We're going to change it up. It needs to be turn based combat. It doesn't need to be action combat. Let's it gives you all the things you want in a remake, but it's remaking six for us.
Mm-hmm.
How well does this story hold up now?
Oh, I mean, it's still. So here's the thing for me though. Like I understand that I don't want to say you struggle, but the retro pixel art is not like, not that you don't like it, but it's not your preference.
It's
I
not.
unfortunately am in the opposite camp. I really love 16-bit and the 32-bit art style.
2D HD,
And
baby.
yeah, 2D. So like if they were to remake 6, I would love a 2D HD remake with some voice acting, because I feel like that would really like slam it home for me. I really don't know if I'd want a full 3D remake, because I think it takes some of the charm away from
Yeah.
the like the essence of the original game. I mean, if they did a full 3D remake, they would probably do 6 parts to it, which would be over the course of 20 years, like Mama Terra said earlier. I just don't know if that would be necessary if the point of the remake was to get the story across in a modern setting.
And the hard part is when you talk about these remakes, they've changed the story of Final Fantasy VII in ways that I, as a fan of the original, can't stand. It's
Yeah.
not for me. I accept this. I'm not gonna be mad or anything like that about someone who does love it. Final Fantasy VII was never a story for me like that I was gonna be down bad for, because it's told more like a shonen anime. And it's like how Final Fantasy X is told like a YA romance novel. That's why I don't like 10. Everything else about 10 is great, except for the fact that it's told literally like a YA romance novel, right down to the wedding in the middle of it. Now, you could do that to 6, but the impact would be lost. It was such a specific era in time where the world was finally communicating constantly on a regular basis. We were just always talking to each other for the first time ever. When the World
Yeah.
Wide Web was brand new. And you would have to change so much of Six's story today, or it wouldn't sell as well globally. The case in point is Edgar Figaro. He would not go over well. Yes, we know a lot of it's a facade. He's not as much of a womanizer as we thought, but he's got enough of a reputation that we know he was sleeping with people constantly. So how
That's
much
fair.
of it is actually true? The big part of this game is imperfection, imperfect people. So we know he's got some big old skeletons in his closet, and that's probably one of them, a big one. But they would have to rewrite him so that gamers everywhere, the world over, wouldn't go after him with torches and pitchforks. It would be so bad. And what sucks is that everybody loves Edgar. Everybody loves Edgar.
Yeah.
He's just that good. But they would have to take away a fundamental part of his character in order to
Yeah.
do that. If you, again, go look at the supplemental material, World of Final Fantasy, specifically, he is a smarmy jerk. Oh, okay, he's not a jerk, but he is smarmy as hell. It is not great. It's not. And unlike in how in 1994, there was a lot of guessing going back and forth between the localization team here in North America and the original team in Japan. We were just having to guess what they meant. Look at Chrono Trigger, Magus. His name was originally just Demon King, and so they changed
Mhm.
it to Magus, which just means wizard. And then they were making those kinds of localization leaps, like how they made Kefka a general. They would have to undo so much just because they are in constant contact now. When you go back and you look at the separation between Final Fantasy VI as it was in 94 with the Ted Woolsey translation to Final Fantasy VI just on the PlayStation era when the anthology was released, they are two completely different translations. Because
Right.
Woolsey just threw stuff together because he had such a limited time to do it. A lot of that story, that original story, is just not correct.
Yeah.
And it's hard to talk to people because I've been in this fandom so long. I know people that will not read the new translation. They want to consider the Woolsey translation true. They still believe that Setzer is this gross monster. They still believe that Edgar is a pedo, that kind of thing. They're not. They're not.
Mhm.
And one of the things, the value, again, going back to the value of voice acting, is interpretation can only get you so far. I had
Right.
people like before I did the dramatization of the game and put my spin on it, People were convinced that Edgar was a pedo. They never once thought, oh, the little girl in his bedroom may just be a niece who always looks at her uncle with those bright eyes of, I want to marry a
Yeah.
man like Uncle Scott, which is weird because Scott was my brother's name. But and also, you know, he's talking to Realm, call me when you're older, is more like, oh my god,
Yeah.
child, talk to me when you're older. More like that. These are things that we won't know unless they remake it and unless they change the story if it was those first two things, because we all know about Japan's pedo problems. If unless they change that, their sales are going to plummet.
Well, and
It's not going to be good.
here's the realistic thing, and I for those people that are out there who want remakes of their favorite Final Fantasy games. And I understand we've talked about this before on the podcast. I understand the hate on Final Fantasy VII because you know it. I mean, it is the most popular Final Fantasy IP, and Square Enix keeps
What are you
saying, "Well,
going
here's
to do?
more of it. Keep taking it." Right?
It's
Final Fantasy,
it's the money
it,
machine.
yeah, and seven. Listen, seven is my favorite installment of Final Fantasy, and it's my first introduction. Um, but let me just say, like, here's the thing, right? Like, even though I think six is a top tier Final Fantasy game, easily top tier
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy game, when you're talking about like Square Enix is in the business of making money. They're not in the business
Yes.
of delivering us what we want as fans. Like, it just, I'm sorry, it is what it is. They're a corporation. They're here to make money.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at the top selling Final Fantasy games of all time, because six was in the Nintendo era, at the end of the Nintendo era, and things like that, it's just, it's not up there. And even though it's popular and acclaimed by the fan base, it doesn't have the brand recognition that you need for non Final Fantasy fans that seven had in order to draw in
There's a
new
thing here
gamers,
that
right?
is very important to this part of the conversation. Very important. They spent more money advertising Seven than they spent making it. Seven's entire success was built on advertisement alone. They put that game everywhere, places they had never displayed commercials for it before, and that was globally. It was
Yeah.
everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. And there is a disconnect that I think a lot of people forget here. When Final Fantasy launches onto a new system, they will throw absolutely everything in their being to hype that Final Fantasy to sell consoles as well as the game. So if you were to put 6 on the PlayStation as the first PlayStation Final Fantasy, and then make 7 the second one, and then 8 being the final one on the PlayStation, and then 9 as the first one on the PlayStation 2, we would be singing a completely different story. 6 would be the big one instead of 7, and 9 would be the big one instead of 10. Those two games, so much of their popularity stems from when they came out specifically. After that, you can start talking about the story. They are popular for a good reason. They are
Yeah.
incredible stories. They have
So
great characters, they have voice acting, they have so much, but that all started with the advertising.
you are not wrong in regards to six and seven. I actually agree with you. Even though seven's my favorite, I agree with you. If six had ushered in the PlayStation era, one, I think that if you would if you could imagine six with the graphics that PlayStation gave us for seven at that time, I think would have been phenomenal, right? So I
Mhm.
agree with you. I don't agree with you on the 910. I actually think that would have hurt the Final Fantasy brand more because and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate on this from listeners, and I don't know about you guys here. I'm not a big fan of nine. I actually think 10 is the best Final
I'm
Fantasy
not
game
either.
to ever be made.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the problem with nine is the same problem that Square Enix has, and they had it with this game too, with six, is that we get all the way to the end and it all feels in the last hour of gameplay super rushed, and there's
Mhm.
variables being thrown at us that six wasn't as bad as others, but like when you get to the end of nine, no spoilers for nine, but when you get to the end of nine, the last 2 hours of the game, I was like, what am I playing here? What is this,
I
you
want to
know?
be
And so,
clear. I do view 9 as a masterpiece because it did
okay,
exactly what it set out to do and not a single thing more. but I do also see where it is flawed. No man is an island, and I take that to heart. There is no such thing as absolute perfection, but I can see that 9 is a masterpiece compared to something like 15. 9 is god tier. I'm just gonna be real with you, but
I
I
really
haven't played
like
15
15.
yet, so
I
I haven't played 15 yet.
15 doesn't work for me because of the gameplay being locked behind. Oh, spoiler.
That's
It's
fair. That's fair.
the
That's fair.
gameplay being locked. You understand what I'm saying without being a spoiler.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's the only reason I don't like 15. Weirdly enough, like the reasons I don't like Final Fantasy are not a specific game is not what people are ready for. But nobody ever gives me a chance to explain. They just go, "You're wrong," and then tantrum off into the sunset. Um, but 9 did not work for me, but I did enjoy it while I was playing it. Also, Kuja's really hot. Um, it
It's fair.
it was such, again, another a specific moment in time. It was the last great storybook Final Fantasy that we had. 4 being another one that I could point at and go, that's a storybook. Not as much as 5, but it's that really really high fantasy, whereas the new high fantasy that we got is 16. Loved 16. Oh my god, I loved 16. I play it on easy mode. I don't care that it's played like Devil May Cry. My hands can't do it anyway, so I was just there for the story.
Same.
But it it's that storybook notion, and the storybook games were largely hit or miss for me. I love 5. I don't love 5 as much as I love 4, which was my first Final Fantasy. It's going to be, what kind of story do you want to be told? And for me, 9 was not the kind of story that I wanted to be told.
Hmm.
It felt like a rehash of too many games that came before it.
That's fair.
It honestly, it just felt like a rehash of 4 now that I sit down and think about it a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
Mama
go
Terra,
ahead.
but I think the whole purpose behind 9 was, I think there was a not, I don't want to say outcry, but there was like this notion that Square had gone away from like their roots of high fantasy, because you just had 7, you just had 8. I guess you could kind of throw 6 in there with like the steampunk vibe to it,
Mhm.
but it's really more 7 and 8 that were more militarized and more modern. Um, so 9 was really just a callback to the original Final Fantasy. You had the 4 party system, the 4 person party system. You had all like the original tropes from the original game. So that was like its whole thing was that, just paying homage to why we are where we are. But I want to just piggyback on what you were saying about Final Fantasy VII being so successful because it launched the PlayStation 1 era. Um, I think the thing that people forget to talk about when they talk about Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy VII, I enjoy it. I respect it. It's not my favorite. My favorite is actually 8. But that's a conversation for another day.
Choice.
Um, Final Fantasy VII to me is as successful as it is because prior to Sony developing the game or prior to Square partnering with Sony and Sony having its own console, Sony was going to develop an add-on for the Super Nintendo, kind of like what the 32 the Sega CD did for the Sega Genesis. They were going to make an add-on for the Super Nintendo to have discs be playable,
Mm-hmm.
and they were literally like, they agreed to it. Nintendo agreed that they were going to do this contract with Sony. They were literally like handshake away, and it was done. And then on the 11th hour, Nintendo pulled out and decided they were going to let Philips develop their CD drive attachment, and that completely bombed.
Oh, damn.
So Sony's decided to, you know what, we're just gonna make our own console. But if you look at the history of Final Fantasy, before Final Fantasy VII, everything was Nintendo. Everything
Everything.
was
And
Nintendo.
it didn't help that part of what happened was Celeste's jump and the poisoning of
Oh,
Doma were gonna
yeah.
be big turnoffs to Nintendo. And while, Final Fantasy VI had great chemistry, 7 had better chemistry
Mhm.
between its characters. So there was no way that it wasn't going to be a hit. Like, even if it moved to the second PlayStation slot, it was still going to be a lightning in a bottle, basically.
Yeah.
It's why I don't
Yeah.
like any of the subsequent material, like Advent Children. They can't get back to that moment. They've lost the flow, which is another reason I don't want a Final Fantasy VI remake unless Sakaguchi is in the room, because you've lost the flow. That story was so much about being just a person in Japan at that time, with bombshell after bombshell going off in the
Mhm.
media constantly. Remember, these were the children and grandchildren of people who had to survive in post Hiroshima and Nagasaki Japan. So
Mm-hmm.
their understanding of the world and life was way different than anything we'd ever had in America.
Right.
And that fed over into 7, going into the concepts of ecological disasters, things like that, as nuclear power really started
Mm-hmm.
catching on in the world. And honestly, full disclosure, if you do not play both 6 and 7, you are not getting the entire impact of both games. They are a matched set, they belong together. They are both sides of the same story. You have the cultural and the ecological, and they're both talking about it. You just have to put them side by side to really see that picture. The single best experience I can ever tell someone if they're coming into Final Fantasy for the first time is play 6 and 7 back to back, and you're going to have the best ride of your life. So,
I could see it. I could see it.
So we kind of delved into our last talking point a little bit about, if the mechanics of the game would still hold up today and what a remake would look like if they went down that route. Um, I personally I want Final Fantasy to continue to progress. I don't want to keep going back. Like, I was fine going back with 7 because I understand you made a great point, and I think that we're gonna have to circle back and talk about this at a later date. But the advertisement costs that they've put into to 7 to get 7 everywhere, right? With remake, rebirth, and now Revelation, even the original 7, and I think that that's personally the right move, because you need new people to get into your franchise, right? Like we've talked about that several times before. But I'd love to be able to circle back at that at another date when we do another episode. But I think that when we're looking specifically at 6, right, and
mhm.
whether or not, um, if you did, okay, let's just say hypothetically we do get the remake in whatever version you want. Do you think that the way this game played out with its mechanics, especially when you're talking about the character identity, and the mass character or mass party of characters, I think you have to have that. That's got to be part of it, right? Like, to feel like a core Final Fantasy VI game. Does that work? Can you have a game where you have 14 playable characters and then you go to the end and you've got 3 different parties floating around? And I tell you what I messed up on was the fact I didn't realize it was going to go down that route. I had underdeveloped characters at the end of the game. I didn't
Yeah.
even have a full 14 party. I didn't even take the time to go get everybody. And I was like, it took me like hours to beat Kefka at the end of this game. Would
You gotta get Umaru in
would
there,
You
would,
bro.
would
gotta.
that work? Would
You
that work?
gotta get the Yeti.
Let me.
You gotta have
I
the
did.
Yeti to get up the
I did.
cultist's tower at least.
I did have the Yeti, so I did have
Okay,
the
good.
Yeti. So but does that work? Because modern Final Fantasy, let's just take it back to 16. 16 was Clive's story and Clive alone. Like, you didn't play as other people in that game. There was no party in 16. It was Clive's story. Could we get a 16 that had so many playable characters
No.
and such an intricate story? Why you don't think it would work? I don't
No.
think it would either. I don't either.
I
Why
think
do
they
you
could
think
pull
no?
it off with 7 remake, but not with a 16 style, and that is solely due to the fact that each character in Final Fantasy VI was highly specialized, to the
Yeah.
point where you
Yes.
stopped using the fight button and started constantly relying on some of their abilities. Like, it's
Yep.
definitely true of Sabin. When was the last time you hit fight on Sabin and didn't just plug in his blitz?
Yep.
That's like that kind of thing. You were always using Edgar's tools, Figa Bros,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And then you get down to characters like Gogo, who has Mime. Gogo is a driving
Oh,
force here of why they
so
cannot
good.
remake. How do you even play Gogo? How do you
Yeah.
make
So
that
good.
playable? Characters like Gao, who at their core are berserk. what are you going to do? You're just going to let him go? Is he just going to do whatever he wants? You would have to fundamentally change him to being turn based if you were to go that route, or go the, I guess, halfway turn based. I don't know how you would classify remake, but if you were to go that route, how would you make Gao playable? Then you
Yeah.
get into characters like Realm. How does her ability even begin to work in that kind of setting? Can you make a turn-based game with this many characters work? Yes. Yes, you can. We had proven with Expedition 33 that you can have a place for turn-based play in the modern world. It went off like a bomb. It won game awards because we were still talking about it a year later. That's how the game awards work. It goes by who's talking about it. Is it being talked about? It's still being talked about. But with 6, again, that specialization kneecaps it. They would have to fundamentally change how so many of these characters play. Runic, for instance, you have to enter the runic command every turn to have Celes
Mm-hmm.
block off magic power. You could, theoretically, do this with a gambit system a la 12. Oh, I love 12 so much. Oh my god. But the gambit system would not give you any satisfaction in a Final Fantasy VI remake and would piss off the fan
Yeah.
base. I don't make the game play itself, but most people, when they talk about 12, the first thing they say is the game played itself. Gambits are a choice. If you don't turn them off and leave your characters playable, that's your fault. But that's never going to go over well in a conversation. It doesn't. Trust me. I've been there. But without that gambit aspect, again, the 6 characters, they just aren't going to work. You could actually even go so far as to say the blitz commands. You would lose the keypad input in order to play his blitzes. You would just have to go down a line to streamline it, or people would throw a fit. If they kept it, it would still have to be across the screen, and most people would miss that with the action that is going on the screen at the time you would supposed to be entering it, unless they do that cool slowdown thing that 7 Remake did. Then it would work, but that might get annoying to constantly have to keep doing. With an ATB game like 6, it's not even a question. You're just fine doing it, you know? You don't even think about it. So it's an if-then statement. You're also going into the territory, and this is not unheard of in the modern day, but it is not commonly done. Celeste's jump, giving you the option to change what happens in the scene, whether we save
Yeah.
him or we don't, takes a lot of additional processing space. That is a bigger download, more time. It would end up as DLC if we were especially unlucky. And then there's the question of what do you do with Sid from there on out? If you do save him, well, that's a big moment where you have to program the opera, inputting all of those commands. I'm down for it. A lot of people won't be. Let's
Yeah.
consider the next part that's big and scary, the ensemble cast, where whoever you're using the most becomes your viewpoint characters at the end of calling out Kefka. That is a nightmare to program in the modern day. I know some game devs. I'm not going to drop names, but I know some, and they all say the same thing. It's too much. It is a huge, huge undertaking. We think, oh, it's not that hard to make video games. Yes, it is. It does take a lot. Why do you think it's a secondary reason to why they're all wanting to go use AI? Boo! I don't want AI in Final Fantasy VI. Boo! They want to save that money and that programming time, and AI could pull off something like that and make it look horrible, but it's you have to count all of those aspects when you talk about a remake, and it's why I don't want a 3D one. It could work
It's
in theory, but they would have to make specifics. Sid does die. Terra is the final viewpoint character. Celeste is the final viewpoint character, and nobody would be happy.
I have an answer to one of those questions you asked. And what would they do with Sid if you do end up saving Sid and he lives? What happens to him at the end? And if you assuming that you've seen the first Avengers movie, where at the end Loki wakes up and all the Avengers are surrounding him, and he wakes up and they're all ready to attack. That's
Yes.
what I imagine. I imagine Sid waking up. He leans over, grabs a bite of fish, looks up, and there's all 14 cast members looking at him like
Shawarma.
we're about to
And
swarm him.
there's
Yep.
Realm, and she's hitting her hand with the paintbrush like it's
Yep.
a baseball bat. Like, we got some talking to do.
Yep, 100%, 100%. All right. Well, listen, guys. I think this is about time where we find our Moogle and hit the save point for our next episode. Dad, man, let me kick it over to you right before we save. Is there anything you want to add about Final Fantasy VI and how great this game is?
Uh, yeah, it's definitely it was definitely an eye opening experience. I always heard people's lists, and six was always very highly touted on those lists, but I don't really consider opinions of anybody until I do it myself. So now that I've finally played through it and had the experience for myself, I understand how monumental and important this game is to the franchise as a whole. I would love to see this game. I mean, the Pixel remaster is really great. Making accessibility easier for a lot of people, especially for one through six. But I would love to see, not. I don't want it to get FF7 treatment because I think that's just over bloated and just there's too much. But I would like to see something because you're talking Super Nintendo. You're talking that was what the third console generation
Mhm.
so long ago, and you've had remasters. They're just remastered 10 again for the Switch
Yeah.
2. There's rumors about remastering 13, and 13 doesn't need a remaster because it's on PS3 and Xbox 360 engines. So I would love to see something done with the older game titles, like kind of pushing them forward into the modern age for sure.
Mama Terra, how about you? Any closing words on Final Fantasy VI?
I could keep talking about this game for hours, and my closing words beyond, it would be an insane remake. You would lose voice actors, you would lose a team periodically. It would get crazy. All I can really say is just go play it. Do
Yeah.
whatever you have to do. Get the pixel remasters. Turn on that EXP gain. Slam through the game in 15 hours, not even, on your lunch break. Save it. Keep it going. You don't know until you play it. And with everything happening in the world right now, with all of the darkness, the important thing to remember is that hope shines brightest in the darkness. And Final Fantasy VI is going to be the game that proves that to you if you haven't played it yet.
Very, very well said. The only thing I have in addition to what you guys said is right now the music from the opera scene is at the top of my playlist in Spotify easily. It's such great music,
I
such
saw it
great music.
live.
And listen,
Oh,
I
that's
I
do
went
want
to
to
awesome.
the
know.
Distant Worlds in New York. I saw it live.
I love
Uematsu
that.
was there.
I'm hoping they're going to be in St. Louis in December. I'm hoping to be able to make it out there to go see it.
I
I
recommend
think it's a
Distant
different world
Worlds.
concert.
Everybody,
Yeah.
if you get a chance to go, go. We love to go to Distant Worlds. We always dress up for it. It never fails to bring a tear to my eye. I gotta tell you, at the Uematsu show in New York, uh, Arnie Roth accidentally knows I exist now because the I'd been chasing it for years. The encore was Terra's theme,
Yeah.
and I screamed. 3 notes in, I screamed accidentally. And he just turns and he goes, "It's okay, you're gonna get through it." And then I was
That's
in the second
that's so
row.
good.
He blows me a kiss wave when it's done. And we were on our feet and we heard this surge after it. We heard this surge of cheering from behind us the moment they saw the green hair stand up, and it was just Uematsu came on stage and actually looked at me like I was acknowledged. So
I
if
love
you
that.
ever
That's
get a
awesome.
chance to go, go. You won't
I
regret
love
it.
I love that. And listen, I would be when you're talking about recommendations, I would be remiss if I didn't say, Dadman brought this up. Final Fantasy X remastered again for the Nintendo Switch 2. Don't forget, peak Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy X 2, and that's available with that remastered version. I mean, I know every single time they give us a 10 remastered, it comes with a 10 too. So you gotta go out and play it. I have such disdain for 10 2.
A
Not
lot of
because
people
it was
do.
a bad game, which it was, not because they took a gamble, which I don't mind, it's fine. It just 10 was so good, and the follow-up was so not, but that's okay. That's just my opinion.
10-2 is
I'm
a
going
masterpiece compared to what they actually had planned for 10-3. There is a dramatization of a 10-3 story that was an atrocity on mankind.
Oh, I don't know if I knew that or not.
Do you
That
ever
might
want
have
to
to be
know what
something to look at.
happens when Titus and Yuna break up? See if you can find
Actually,
it.
I think I knew. Okay, yeah, I think I knew about.
Yep.
I will have to we'll have to take a look. For
Ugh.
sure. So, Dadman, that was our first game up review. What's next? What are we playing for the next game up?
Okay, so we talked about this profusely. There's so many titles to choose from, and we were kind of like, jumping back and forth, but about what we were going to choose. But officially, our next game up is going to be Final Fantasy IV, and I'm very excited for that
I
one.
cosplay from it.
So yeah, I think what we're gonna do is I think we'll wait
Oh.
until after this episode airs, and then we'll start playing it. And then if you guys want to follow us along as we play it, you can check out the stuff that we post on TikTok for that.
Yeah, we'll definitely be posting on social media, kind of going over our recaps.
Oh, be ready.
Probably, probably
Couple
to be
more
honest, probably
powerhouse ladies
spoiler.
coming your way.
Yeah,
Oof,
probably
so
spoiler
good.
recaps. I would imagine. I mean, we're talking about a game older than this one, so if you haven't played it, play along with us. But um, just blanket statement. Pretty much anytime we talk Final Fantasy, it's going to come with some spoiler caveat to it. I mean, it's kind of hard not to, right? And so Final Fantasy 4, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't played it before. I actually know nothing about Final Fantasy 4 other than um, you know. A little bit about some of the characters, but nothing spoilery or worth
You are
mentioning. So
in
I'm
for a
looking forward to it.
real treat.
I
I
hope
can
so. I'm
tell
looking forward
you
to it.
that with Final Fantasy IV was the first time they tackled a particular aspect of storytelling that today we think of as commonplace. In fact, a lot of us go, ugh, they're wrong for each other. Final Fantasy IV is the first love story they ever told. And you're in for the ride of your life. That is such a good game.
Nice. I love it. I'm looking forward to it. So, question to you though, guys. How did you feel about 6? How did it play out for you? Is it top tier Final Fantasy for you? And make sure to let us know and keep the conversation going in the comments, because we generally do. We love to be able to hear from you guys, and the benefit of running the Materia Junction social media pages with Dadman is that at least one of us is always going to be able to respond and get to you and get to your comments. So it keeps the conversation going, and I'm a huge fan of that. As far as teasers for next week, hell if I know. Or next episode, we hadn't got that far. We haven't talked about what our next mainline episode is going to be. So we'll get to that. Maybe we'll throw some content out there on social media. I will tell you though, we just finished another side quest episode about Final Fantasy X and about potentials of a prequel and what that would look like. That's up on the YouTube channel right now. Make sure to go like and subscribe to our platform there on YouTube. We're also on everywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, Apple Play, all that kind of stuff, right? So make sure to go follow us there as well. Dad, man, any last words before we close this one out?
No, just I want to thank our guests for coming on and talking about the game and
Yep.
your insights to obviously a game that you have more experience with than I do is definitely eye opening because you pointed out things that wasn't even aware of at surface value. So I'm definitely going to replay it at some point, and I'll be looking for those situations that you described earlier to see like if I can pick it out for myself for sure.
Dude, go check
Always,
out her live. When she goes live, you got to check it out for her gameplay. It's a lot of fun. And so,
always, 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 when you are looking at a game or anything that invites you to tell the story to yourself, filling in the holes, finding the headcanons, the one you like the most is the right answer. Go with the one that makes you happy. So many old games were meant for you to figure out what you wanted to fill in those holes. So do it. Make yourself happy.
I like that. I would agree. That's why Celes and Locke ended up together at the end of this game for me.
There you go.
That's where
For me, it's
that's
a
what I wanted.
polycule. Locke's got a
That's
lady
fair.
on each arm for me. So
That's fair. I like that. All right, Warriors of Light. Listen, the light of the crystals may dim, but the data is written. So for all the Warriors of Light out there, don't forget to save your progress. This has been Materia Junction. Thanks, guys.